Welcome. As you settle into rest, let your mind wander through the quiet halls of history. Tonight, we journey through the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. Slowly, calmly, without hurry. Just listen, breathe, and let the story carry you. Long ago, before great emperors and golden cities, there was a quiet land by the Tiber River. Soft hills rolled under gentle skies, and small villages dotted the landscape. Among them was a place that would one day become Rome. The story begins with a legend. Two brothers, Romulus and Remus, were said to be raised by a she-wolf in a hidden cave. They grew strong and bold. In time, Romulus founded a city, giving it his name, Rome. It was only a small settlement at first, but its future would be vast. In its earliest days, Rome was ruled by kings. 7 of them, each adding something to the city: walls, temples, traditions. But the people grew tired of kings. They wanted freedom, and so they formed the Roman Republic. The Republic was something new. It had no kings. Instead, leaders were chosen. Power was shared. The people had a voice, at least in part. It was the beginning of Roman law, Roman order, and Roman ambition. The Republic was strong, but it faced many tests. There were battles with neighboring tribes and arguments within its own walls. Still, Rome grew. Roads were built, armies marched, the city became powerful. As centuries passed, Rome expanded across Italy. It fought in great wars, including one against Carthage, led by the famous General Hannibal. These wars were long and hard. But Rome won, and with each victory, it gained more land, more wealth, and more pride. By now, Rome was not just a city. It was an idea of law, of strength, of destiny. But with growth came tension. The gap between rich and poor widened. Generals became more powerful than senators, and the balance began to shift. The Republic, once proud and stable, started to tremble. In the distance, change was coming, and with it, the first signs of empire. In the quiet that followed Caesar's death, Rome was uncertain. The streets were tense. The Senate divided. The people watched, unsure of what would come next. But among the shadows, one young man began to rise. His name was Octavian, just 18 years old. He was calm, thoughtful, and determined. And most importantly, he was the adopted son of Julius Caesar. At first, few took him seriously. He was young, and many underestimated him. But Octavian moved carefully. He made allies. He studied his enemies. And slowly, he took control. He formed a partnership with 2 powerful men, Mark Antony and Lepidus. Together, they hunted down those who had killed Caesar. Rome was no longer a republic. It was a battlefield of ambition. But alliances rarely last in Rome. Tensions rose. Octavian and Antony turned against each other. Their armies met at sea near a place called Actium. There, Octavian defeated Antony and his ally, Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt. With that victory, the final rival was gone. Octavian returned to Rome, but he did not claim to be a king. Instead, he took the title Augustus, meaning the revered one. He kept the Senate. He kept the old traditions. But behind it all, he held true power. It was the beginning of something new, the Roman Empire. Under Augustus, Rome became peaceful and orderly. Roads stretched across continents, trade flowed, laws were clear. This time of peace was called the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. Temples rose, statues were carved, poets wrote of golden ages. The city glowed in marble, its people proud and prosperous. Augustus ruled for over 40 years. He brought stability after years of war. And when he died, the empire wept. He was not just a man. He was the first emperor. The Republic was gone now, but the people had gained something new: security, order, and a leader who seemed larger than life. And so the Roman Empire stood, tall and proud, its future full of greatness and of shadow. After Augustus, Rome entered an era of splendor. The empire was strong, its borders wide, its people proud. From the far coasts of Spain to the deserts of Syria, Roman roads stretched like veins across the land. The emperors who followed Augustus shaped Rome in different ways. Tiberius, his stepson, was careful and quiet. He ruled with restraint, but his later years were dark and lonely. Then came Caligula, young, wild, and troubled. At first, the people cheered him, but soon his actions grew strange, and his rule turned cruel. His reign was short, ending with whispers and knives in the shadows. Claudius, once overlooked, surprised many. He improved the empire's laws, expanded into Britain, and worked with patience. He stuttered and he limped, but he ruled with steady hands. After him came Nero, a name that echoes with fire. He fancied himself an artist, a performer. But during his rule, Rome burned. Whether by accident or design, the city suffered. Nero blamed others, and in time, his name would be spoken with fear. But even after chaos, Rome always seemed to heal. Years passed. Emperors came and went. Some were wise, others cruel. And then came a time of greatness, a time historians would later call the Golden Age. It began with Nerva, then Trajan, the soldier emperor who expanded Rome to its greatest size. Under his rule, the empire touched the Persian Gulf, the Red Sea, and the coasts of Britain. Then came Hadrian, who built walls at the edge of the world. He was a traveler, a thinker, a builder. He walked with soldiers, slept in tents, and shaped cities with care. After him was Antoninus Pius, gentle and just. His reign was peaceful, filled with kindness and balance. And then, Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor. He wrote thoughts to himself in quiet moments, thoughts about duty, time, and the nature of life. Even while leading wars, he kept his heart calm. He ruled not for glory, but for the good of Rome. These emperors, together, brought stability. Cities flourished. Roads were safe. The people lived with a sense of peace. Across the empire, Roman law, Roman art, and Roman dreams lived in every stone and every street. It was a time when Rome felt eternal, as if the empire could last forever. But nothing lasts forever. And just beyond this golden glow, darker days were waiting. Time moved quietly through the empire. But even the strongest stone wears down with wind and rain. The Roman Empire, once so mighty, began to change. After the peaceful reign of Marcus Aurelius, his son Commodus took the throne. He was not like his father. He ruled with vanity, not wisdom. And under his reign, cracks began to show. Corruption grew. The Senate grew weak. The army gained more power, sometimes choosing emperors themselves. One ruler after another came, and many left through betrayal or blood. The empire still stood, but its heart beat less steadily. Then came the 3rd century, a time of deep unrest. Emperors rose and fell within months. Civil wars tore at the center. Enemies pushed from all sides, Germans in the north, Persians in the east. It was a time of fear, of confusion. Rome still held its borders, but only barely. And yet, not all was lost. A strong leader emerged, Diocletian. He saw the empire was too large for one man to govern. So he made a bold decision. He divided Rome into 2 halves, the Eastern and the Western Roman Empire, each with its own ruler. For a time it worked. Order returned. Reforms were made. But it also marked a turning point. The empire was no longer whole. The East grew richer, stronger. The West began to fade. Diocletian retired, the only Roman emperor to ever do so willingly. He left his palace and grew cabbages in peace. But the divisions he created would grow deeper. In the decades that followed, emperors came and went. Some ruled well, others simply tried to survive. The world was changing. Trade slowed, cities shrank. Armies were stretched thin, and beyond Rome's borders, new peoples stirred, watching, waiting. The Roman Empire was still grand, still proud, but the age of easy power was over. The old ways were fading, and a new world was beginning to rise in its place. As the empire struggled, a new leader rose, Constantine. He was strong and determined, a man who knew how to command both armies and minds. Constantine faced many challenges. Rivals fought for power. The empire's borders remained tense. But through skill and strategy, he reunited the empire under his rule. One of his greatest decisions was to move the capital city. Instead of Rome, he chose a new home, Constantinople, a city built on the edge of Europe and Asia, where trade and culture would flourish. Constantinople was a shining jewel, its walls strong, its harbors busy, its streets alive with merchants and artists. It became a bridge between worlds, a center of power that would last for centuries. Under Constantine, the empire began to change its shape and focus. The old traditions mixed with new ideas. The empire became more organized, more united. Constantine also strengthened the army and improved the empire's defenses. Roads were repaired, laws were updated. Governors were more closely watched. Though the empire still faced threats from outside, it had found new strength inside. The shift of power to the east was clear. While the Western Empire struggled with invasions and decline, Constantinople stood firm, a beacon of Roman order and culture. The story of Rome was no longer just the story of a city or a republic. It had become the story of an empire, ever changing, ever enduring. The Western Roman Empire, once strong and proud, began to weaken. The years passed, and troubles grew heavier. Barbarian tribes from beyond the borders pressed closer. The Huns, fierce and swift, pushed many others into Roman lands. The Visigoths, Vandals, and Ostrogoths moved steadily, seeking new homes. Rome itself faced danger, not just from outside, but inside. The government was unstable. Emperors changed quickly. The army was stretched thin and often poorly paid. In 410 A.D., a great shock came when the Visigoths, led by Alaric, entered Rome. The city was sacked, its walls broken. Though Rome survived, the damage was deep in the hearts of its people. Years later, the Vandals took the city again, sailing from North Africa. The glory of old Rome seemed to fade like the last light of day. Emperors tried to hold on, but power slipped through their fingers. In 476 A.D., a young leader named Romulus Augustulus was forced to give up his crown. This event is often called the fall of the Western Roman Empire. But even as the empire ended, its spirit lived on. The laws, the roads, the languages, and the cities remained. The story of Rome did not disappear. It changed shape and moved forward. The East continued strong, and the memory of Rome inspired many to come. The fall was not the end, but a new beginning, one that would shape the world for centuries. Though the Western Roman Empire came to an end, its story did not fade away. The world carried pieces of Rome in its heart. Roman roads became paths for new travelers. Roman laws shaped new kingdoms. Roman ideas about government, art, and architecture lived on. The Latin language, spoken by Romans, grew into many new languages: Italian, French, Spanish, and more, spoken by millions. The great cities of Rome continued to inspire builders and artists. Their arches, columns, and temples became models for new creations, far beyond the empire's borders. Even in the quiet places, Roman inventions like aqueducts carrying water helped shape daily life. The empire's story reminds us of strength and change, of rise and fall, and of how history moves like a slow river. Sometimes calm, sometimes wild, but always flowing forward. As you rest now, imagine the soft echoes of Rome's past, whispers of a city that once ruled the world and whose spirit still lingers in the stones beneath our feet.